Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Time Rewind podcast. I am your host, Dylan Stoll, and I'm joined as always, or should I say not as always, but I'm joined again by my friend, Michael Whitford.
Hello, long time no talk.
Yeah, welcome back. So we did get some emails to talk with you guys about, but we have way too much to talk about for episode 8 here, so we're going to dive right in and start talking about episode 8, Eye of the World. Before we do that, though, just throwing out the reminders that if you would like to get in contact with us through email, you can do so at wheeloftimerewind@gmail.com. Or if you're on Instagram and Twitter, you can get at us there at WOT Rewind.
And then next episode, we're going to kind of take a look at the season as a whole. And so we'd appreciate some feedback on that. Maybe ranking your episodes from least favorite to favorite or favorite to least favorite, however you'd like to do so. Be fun to do a little comparing there and discussion about that.
Yeah, that'll be a fun little project, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So let us dive in for this episode here. Episode 8, Season 1 finale, The Eye of the World. So,
The Eye of the World that never showed up.
Well, we are coming back at this after having watched the episode again, and I just want to come right out and start this off by saying, while I do not like this episode nearly as much as the last couple, and the rest of the season, to be frank, it is better on the second watch once you are less in shock about all the changes. Once you know kind of what to expect, it is better than when I first viewed it. Did you have that same reaction, Mike? Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way. The second time is definitely more enjoyable, at least less jarring, and with Rafi coming out and a few other people coming out and explaining some of the changes as well, you start to realize why some of those things happened, and it's a little more acceptable.
But let's hop in here and start talking about this episode.
Should we explain here that we are going to be not going scene by scene, because otherwise it's just going to be back and forth between Fal Dara and the Blight. We're kind of tackle Fal Dara and the Blight. We'll go back and forth a little bit, but we're pretty much going to try to chunk out big chunks of the events that happen to kind of keep this a little streamlined. I think when we were talking, both of us felt like most of the big issues we had with this episode happened towards the end of it. So we'll kind of try to go through, point out the positives, and then we'll get into some of the stuff that we had some issues with. But just to give everyone a little heads up on how we're going to do this.
Yeah, a little roadmap to how the podcast is going to go. So let's start off here with the cold open scene.
This is pretty cool.
I like this scene all in all. I thought it was really cool to get a peek at the Age of Legends, get to see Lews Therin and Telamon. And of course, he's not alone there. He's having a little chit-chat with Latropose Decume. So,
the Tamerlane seat.
Yes, apparently, the Tamerlane seat. So, let's first of all talk about the scene here. First of all, it's in the Old Tongue, which I really enjoyed that being in the Old Tongue. I thought that was a nice little twist on it. It was really cool to actually hear the Old Tongue being spoken on the show. Oh, yeah. But again, I know I had mentioned on the Instant Reaction podcast, this could kind of catch you off guard if you really weren't anticipating it, because it is kind of just the first thing you see is another language. So my first big takeaway of this is that this does not look like a war-ravaged city. And so my question for you, Mike, was, are they making a separation between the breaking of the world and the war of power? Where, Lews Therin Telamon was the general of the war of power, and so his strike at the Dark One's prison wasn't because he was a proud, arrogant man, because he could take on the world and do everything. It was because he had no other choice than to try to do this. It was almost an act of desperation to try to win this war of power, which was the war with the Forsaken coming against the forces of the light, the Trollocs, Dreadlords, all sorts of nasties going on there. And when we see the city, we see the flying cars, we see the shining city there. It does not.
Prosperous.
Yeah, it looks very prosperous, like the Age of Legends was, but it doesn't really seem like a war time.
Well, I hope we get in some of the future seasons here, we get some more from maybe the Forsaken and some flashbacks that help us to understand that maybe the Dark One's touch that the dragon reborn talks about in this scene is more like on how people would changing their purposes and maybe showing other cities like things being sabotaged and other negative things happening, so that way we start to understand like this was bad. Maybe this city was the last bastion of like where everything was compiled, all the libraries, all this stuff. There wasn't war here because they had been able to hold out so far, but they knew it was only a matter of time. Just something more to give us the urgency in this action, because just looking outside, it's like, wait, why are you doing this? You know?
And so I could see where, in the given situation that we see on screen here, why it would seem arrogant to go after the Dark One, because there's no need to. But the reality of the situation is that it was a last act to try to win the war for the light, because the light was actually losing the war of the power to the shadow until Lews Therin Telamon went out there and with his 100 companions to try to take on the Dark One and seal him back in the Bore. But again, I just want to jump into some of the stuff that I've mentioned here. Lews Therin Telamon being referred to as the Dragon Reborn. Again, don't like that at all. And then Latropose Decume, or being called the Tamerlan Seat, the Watcher of the Flame, giving her additional titles that, again, were never hers to begin with, and taking away from Lews Therin a little bit there, even more, because it seems like they really want to hammer home the point there that this is Lews Therin's fault that the Dark One is escaping.
Yeah, that didn't sit well with me. I do think they probably tried to do the Tamerlan Seat to also show this equality of power. Like, you had the dragon, but then you also had this Tamerlan Seat who was the head of the female Aes Sedai. That's kind of how it was painted to me as I was watching, and to a casual viewer, that might be what they're trying to go for here, is that there was inequality in power. Doesn't quite match with what they've said before about the dragon being able to be male or female. It's
show canon is what it is. Like,
yeah,
it's not what it should be, but it is what it is. So the last
outfits are cool, and I just wanted to point this out. Did you notice the ring?
That's what I was gonna say. Yes,
Lews Therin's fingers. Really
do you know
neat.
what that ring is called? It's the Tamerlan ring, is what it's called, because that was one of the things that Lews Therin was capable of doing. That's basically like I forget if it was a Terangrial or an Angrial or something like that, but it was something that he had that he could use there. And like you said, we do see this later, so it makes me kind of wonder what went down at the Eye of the World the first time when Lews Therin was there. But I also wanted to point out here that you see no Elena. And I was really hoping that we would get to see this mystical woman that Lews Therin is always talking about, because, you know, he's clearly deeply saddened by her.
I'm sure we'll see her in the second episode, and as we start to see more of the memories come back.
I'm excited about that part, if they stick with it.
Me too, and I think they will. Because it'll definitely give some good explanation of things. Okay, so why don't we go Blight?
Yeah.
Because we get to, I think up until we get to the Eye of the World part, Bore, whatever, and then we'll kind of go and explain Fal Dara up to that point, and then maybe go back and forth there. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, so the Blight. It still seems cool, very empty still. We get a lot of noises, like things are rustling around. That was probably my biggest issue with just that setting, is that, as with many places, it felt very empty. And I know you'll talk later about Fal Dara and Tarwin's Gap with some of the numbers there, but it just felt very empty. It would have been neat to see a creature. I thought seeing the kid like completely covered and corrupted by the blight, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked that.
Nice explanation of the power and stuff there, but I would have been like, if I was there, like the blight causes, like him sleeping, or what in the blight could cause this? And if Moiraine had just said like, oh, there's creatures here that will devour us, but don't worry, like I put out some wards or protections to keep them away or to warn us, that would have been kind of neat. But just nothing, just foolish boys like you.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to say, that was one of my biggest gripes about the Blight here, was that we hear Moiraine tell Rand, don't touch anything because everything is so dangerous here if you touch it. Meanwhile, the entire time, 30 seconds later or less, they're brushing vines out of the way, leaning up against trees to take a nap, laying on the ground. Yeah. The entire thing was a little ridiculous and just really contradicted what they had just stated previously about the Blight being dangerous and not to touch anything there. But then we get Rand's dream.
And it was a cool scene.
Yeah, where you see Ishamael, because if you look and pause it, that's who it's credited as Ishamael, or the man. And so Ishamael is one of the Forsaken. So not necessarily the Dark One himself, but really high up there. Yeah, we don't necessarily know that as a show watcher, and who knows, maybe in the show Ishamael is the Dark One.
Well, and Moiraine and Rand don't know that.
Very true as well, yeah.
Which mirrors what happened in the book.
Yes. It actually really does quite nicely. But we see Ishamael basically shove a knife through Moraine's mouth, which, talk about a jarring scene. Like, that caught me off guard.
Shocking.
I was like, whoa. But then he has this little chat with Rand where he's like, ooh, a heron-marked blade. Where did you get that? And then Rand is like, this is a dream. So since it's a dream, let me wake myself up by stabbing myself through the chest with the sword. Yeah, that's seriously what it was. But
I thought that was really cool in a great way. Like, I deny you.
Yeah, I deny you. So it was funny.
And then you had almost like a repeat of what just happened. And I was like, oh, it would have been kind of cool if they did like a Groundhog's Day thing, just for maybe a scene or two. Like, she like goes and says the same exact thing, then all of a sudden, again, sword goes through, and then he's just like, you can't escape me that easily, Lewis Theron. You should know that. And then Rand just like yells, and then all of a sudden he gets woken up by Moiraine or something. That would have been pretty. That would have been cool,
sweet. But either way, I thought this part was pretty nice. I liked this part here.
Yeah.
We also get a glimpse at Malkir, which is the nation where Lan is from.
Yeah.
Where you have the 7 towers of Malkir there that were used to kind of watch the Blight. And again, this is like a nice little marker, because like if you're reading through the book and it gets to the Eye of the World part, they use Malkir as a marker trying to find the Eye of the World, about like how much farther they have to go there. And so again, it was just a nice little exposition there showing you exactly how far they have gone in the Blight area here. And then they find the Trolloc armies rushing down on the outskirts of the Blight. You see that had them heading towards Tarwin's Gap. And when we see this, Moiraine is basically telling Rand, don't worry about them. This is what we need to do. We need to stay focused on the mission at hand. So what were your thoughts on that part?
So I just, going forward to the end of the episode, her saying that by defeating the Dark One, we'll defeat this army kind of thing. No, that's not really the case. And honestly, them, I'm putting air quotes here, defeating the Dark One, like they think they do at the end, doesn't really seem to have any impact outside of what happens to Moiraine.
What happens to Moiraine, and we'll talk about some other impacts later on, such as what was down below them.
Well, yes,
the
obviously
seal,
that.
Basically,
but I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's, for a second I thought, when I was watching this initially, I was like, oh, these are going to be kind of linked, like their battle and the battle here, and I was like, that's going to be pretty cool, but it's not that way at all.
They're two very separate battles in the show here.
Mm-hmm. And I wish they had been a little bit more linked. Like, maybe another force started showing up, and then all of a sudden, like when the encounter between Rand and Ishamael resolves itself in the Blight, like all of a sudden they scatter.
Because that's really what happens in the book, too. Like, they don't kill every single Trolloc in the book. The Trollocs see what's happening and are like, we're getting out of here. Let's run away. Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree. It would have been better if they lined it up, or even if they lined up the part where the circle takes out the army there. If that lined up more with Rand blasting Ishamael, that would have been a little bit better just for the lining up of it. I don't know.
It would have been neat if it mirrored itself in a way. But then we get them continuing through the Blight, and they get to
the Eye of the World.
Eye of the World. Again, not sure. Did kind of skip a piece, but the set there was cool. It looked really neat. Honestly, it made me feel like this was a building or someplace where Aes Sedai would have met during the Age of Legends. So I thought that was kind of cool. Maybe has some significance to that. But right before that, we had, after the dream, Rand asking Moiraine about what her plan was, because
of course
had asked it's okay, it's not a big deal, had asked him about his plan. You always had a plan, Lewis Theron. I don't, though. And I did like going back again to the dream, Ishamael kind of making fun of him for thinking that Tam was his father, and we'll see more of that, hopefully, explanation later on. But we have Moiraine basically handing him a ter'angreal and
a sa'angreal.
Sa'angreal, sorry. Yes. A sa'angreal. In the books, this would have been a ta'angreal. Anyway.
Would it, though? Okay, I have a question for you here.
An angreal.
Yeah.
My thing with this item was that, like, it's fine if they want to combine items, whatever. It seemed like how she was explaining it, this was the Eye of the World, and how that was explained in the books.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to bring up to you. She brought up that it was the combined power of, like, thousands of male channelers, like, purified or whatever. I don't know if she even said purified, but, like, thousands of male channelers put every drop of the power that they had into this sa'angreal, which is what the Eye of the World was. It was a pool of pure Saidin that was not tainted by the Dark One's touch, because all these male channelers poured all of their power into it.
Right?
Yep, and the female Aes Sedai that were with them, they cleansed it as they were, like, pouring it out into it, and so it was this whole big deal, which is, this is what the Eye of the World is, so that the dragon can, use all this. But yeah, the way she described it made me wonder, is this the little fat man angreal that we see Rand using a lot in the show? Or is this a Chodonkal that uses, the male side of the linked...
I don't know.
The linked thing there. You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah.
Like the giant
biggest sa'angreal, right?
Yeah, the biggest sa'angreal ever made.
It'll be interesting to see how they go about, if they incorporate those, or if they're just trying to take all those things and put it into one item. I don't know. And it just leads me to wonder, one, how did she get a hold of this?
Right.
It would be kind of cool if we got a little bit of backstory with that. And, like you said, if they're going to introduce any other artifacts that Rand used in the show. Don't know. So
the other bit I wanted to mention with this is that she brought something that only a male channeler can use. Now, I wonder if that's because she might have had one that a female channeler could use on her as well. And if she did, why didn't she use it during Ishamael? But, like, if she thought Egwene was the dragon, which she all but confirms through her silence when Rand was talking to her about this, why would she have this with her if she thought Egwene was the dragon?
I liked that scene, though, where Rand was like, you thought it was Egwene, didn't you? And then when she was silent, so did I.
So did I,
like,
yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I really like that exchange. But you're right. Why would she have this just for the male and not something for the female, and then why wouldn't she use it? I don't know.
The other thing I thought about is like if they talked about how the soul of the dragon could be male, but maybe it's still in a female's body or something, and maybe Egwene would use Saidin or whatever, and not Saidar. But I also don't know, outside of bonus material, how strict they're being with the separation of Saidin and Saidar. Because, I mean, they never really call it Saidin in the show, do they? Like, outside of bonus material?
I'm trying to think. I don't remember. I'll have to pay attention and look for that when I rewatch it.
Same.
But I did want to bring up when Rand was like, "You taught her, and then like, could you teach me?" And she like all but avoids answering that.
She's like, "Oh, I don't want to drive you closer to madness." Not that, you know, it'd be the same as teaching a fish to fly or a bird to swim,
which is how they describe it in the books.
Yes.
So, and I mean, know.
I'm kind of getting a little ahead, but I want to talk to you also about when Rand is in the dream world there with, or the vision, I guess you can call it, with Ishamael, and he's trying to coach him basically how to get the source. And he's like, oh, you know, open yourself up, don't fight it. And every single time in the books we hear Rand getting ready to channel, we hear him talking about how he has to wrestle Saidin to get under his control, and it is a fight to get into it, to get the source for him. Whereas the women in the books, they all like open like a flower bud and like accept it and like surrender to it. Whereas Rand's like, if I surrender to Saidin, it will kill me. I need to fight this thing and gain control of it. So just the way they described grasping onto the source for a male channeler in the show here was very, very different from what it was before. But we got off track, jumping back to the Eye of the World. I, too, actually really liked the architecture. I thought that it looked like a really cool set. It looked like it was of something of import because, like, you see the bottom has this giant disc that has the symbol of the old school Aes Sedai on there, with the female half and the male half, the Flame of Tarvalon and the Dragon's Fang, joined together to form that yin-yang symbol that they use for Aes Sedai.
Yeah, the Kolendor. Or not Kolendor.
The Quendiar.
Quendiar, thank you.
Again, those pronunciations from the book reading only are coming back to haunt you.
I know. The Quendiar disc. And it makes me wonder if they're going to make it so the Quendiar discs are places instead of just like discs. Because in the book it was described almost like plates, you know? Like,
and they were transportable as well.
Yeah.
Like you in the books, like they grab the seals to the Dark One's prison, which are made of Quendiar, and like they'll put them in like their pocket or whatever and bring that with them. Whereas here, it looks to me like that's what the Eye of the World is here, is that it's a seal on the Dark One's prison. Not necessarily the final seal or anything like that, but there are 6 others that are not broken that we are aware of, at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so we get to the bottom here. We see the Aes Sedai symbol, the yin yang, black and white. Rand says he's been there before. He sees like an image of Lews Therin Telamon and the Dark One, quote unquote, or Ishamael fighting, talking,
staring at each other.
Yeah, not quite sure there what's going on, but it's okay.
So do we just want to finish off this aspect of the show?
Yeah, let's just keep going.
Okay.
And then Rand touches the symbol and he enters, I've been here before, I know this. And then he goes into this like dream.
Yeah.
He's sucked in there from Ishamael trying to tempt him, as we see in this sequence where he's back in the Two Rivers suddenly. Not sure why he's there. He sees Egwene and Joya, apparently his daughter. It's a very cute scene. Honestly, like, you could definitely picture this happening to Rand. And this is something, like, I know, Dylan, you talked about in your instant reaction, that was explained in the books during Egwene's initiation into the White Tower. One of the things that she would be giving up, the futures, right, the possible futures she would be giving up. and it fits well here with trying to tempt him, and that's what Ishamael is trying to do. He's trying to get Rand to see this could be a possibility for you. You just have to make it a possibility.
Right.
Use the power to make this thing happen. What were your thoughts?
So my thoughts were, first of all, like you said, this is a throwback to book readers who will recognize this scene from Egwene's accepted testing. And then Mike and I had a little discussion before we started recording here about this scene and how we actually felt this scene fit better with being a dream for Rand and something he would want, as opposed to Egwene and something she would want. Because like Rand says at the very end, this is what I want, this is not what she wants, and I love her too much to force her to give up her dreams. So I thought all in all, this scene was nice because you see Ishamael basically trying to be the father of lies that, Ba'alzamon was known for being, basically, and trying to tempt Rand to make Joya real. She's already real. You just have to reach out and, grab that power to make her even more real. Just believe it in yourself. You can make this life however you want to do it. And so I thought that this whole scene in general with Rand being tempted by Ishamael was very interesting. I actually liked this part of the episode, so I'll give props to the actor who played Ishamael. I liked him as
great job
as an actor there. I also thought it was very interesting, though, going to the flip side of this about what's happening outside here, because you have we have Moiraine try to attack Ishamael, and you see these shards of glass basically coming towards his neck, and he's just like, nope, that's not happening. Puts what looks like a shield on Moiraine. So I think we're in agreement now that Moiraine is shielded as opposed to stilled. But puts puts a shield on her and then flings her one power that she was her flows that she was using to strike at him,
sucked back into
right
her.
Back at her, and you see the reaction of pain. You're like, ugh. And meanwhile, Ishamael does that little twist thing, which I was telling Mike really looks like if you had a rope and you're tying it around a metal thing. Which, if you think about the one power being threads and weaving, it's winding it around and tying off the flow there. So it looks more to us like Moiraine was shielded and had that shield tied off. But what I wanted to talk about, and before I have you jump in here, Mike, was how Moiraine is you think I came here unprepared, and it holds a knife up to Rand's throat, drawing blood. The entire time, Ishamael is just sitting there, smiling, doing nothing. And I'm just you just demonstrated how powerful you are by, shielding this woman and tying it off. You're going to let her just kill the Dragon Reborn there when you're trying to convert him to the dark? I don't think so. So yeah, that was my whole thing there. I was there's no way Ishamael would just stand there and let that happen.
Yeah, that the knife to the throat thing seemed more like him just okay, whatever, you can have that up to his neck. It doesn't matter to me. It would have been funny if he had been alive or dead. He's mine.
Oh, I know. I was waiting for that. Because another name for the Dark One is the Lord of the Grave. So he was I can have you willingly alive, or I will take you when you're dead.
Yeah.
So that would have been a pretty cool scene if they did that, or a little cool piece of dialogue they had there. But something I want to bring up as well is we see Rand start channeling into the sa'angreal that Moiraine gave him, and then basically holding it out like a flashlight. Not really sure what he was doing because we don't really see anything. It was almost kind of reminded me a little bit of in Dragon Ball Z when Goku's Kamehameha, and then he shoots it.
The
yeah, he's holding it out there, and he's just you're boom. And I'm just okay, so again, Ishamael just stands there looking at it. But I wanted to bring this up to you. Did you notice the smirk Ishamael had when Rand blasted him? I think he wanted Rand to blast him there to break the seal on the prison.
Which is what happened, correct?
Which is what happened, yeah.
Yeah. And as you saw later on in Faldara with Padan Fane's monologue, that this is just the beginning. I think that really is kind of what we got there with Ishamael. We didn't talk about in the dream, Rand realizing that this really was his dream for him and Egwene, but not Egwene's dream. And so he could never take her possible future away from her.
Right.
And I thought that was such a great line. And Chris Allen, who sent that email to us, I know we're going to talk more about that next episode, Chris, but I wanted to point this part out that, like you said, it just fit better. This fit better being Rand's dream rather than Egwene's dream in the books. Because Egwene never really wanted this. She always dreamed of adventure. I mean, there was probably a small part of her that wanted it, but,
once she got a taste for adventure, she didn't want it anymore. I feel like she did want it when she was only living in the Two Rivers, when she thought she would be the wisdom there, and she'd grow up to marry Rand, and they'd have kids and all that stuff there. But, yeah, I agree. I thought it was really nice, and I also wonder if, like, despite Rand and Egwene, both professing their love to each other all season long, if this might be the catalyst for Rand to say, you know what, Egwene, I'm not going to hold you back. I'm not going to, make you dwell on our relationship here.
I agree with you, Dylan. It does feel like this is Rand deciding, our futures are going to be separate. I still love her. Like she says to Perrin and Faldara when we get back there in just a moment. He still loves her, but he knows that their futures aren't together. And I think she's going to realize that as well. And
right.
It's going to be, hopefully, it's a clean break and it's not some dragged out thing for TV audiences, because Rand's going to have other love interests and she's going to have other love interests.
Right. And I think it's also could be like them marching towards the point where they realize they still love each other, but not romantic love. They love each other kind of like as best friends and stuff. And so that might be where this is marching towards there. But then we also have, to finish off this part here with Rand and Moiraine, Rand basically saying, Moiraine, tell everyone I'm dead. You owe me this. I'm out of here. And so if Moiraine realizes what she did, that this is not the last battle, how is she going to just let the Dragon Reborn walk away?
I think she's in shock. So I could kind of get this. She's in shock. Like, she can't feel, like, she can see the source. She thinks she might be stilled. Who knows what. And she's just like, okay. Like, very uncharacteristic. Again, like we talked about, and like we've read through some things with, like, Rafi. The reason they did this is because they want to give her an arc and something to work for in season 2, whereas in the books, in the second book, and really even, I guess, in the third book,
Moraine's not too important in the second book. She's important in the third book, but in the second book, Moraine's like there for maybe 5 chapters or however long in the very beginning until they leave Faldara.
And then she disappears. And so they're going to, because this is a show and she's one of the main characters, they're going to focus on her a lot, which made me think of a lot of implications further on in different storylines she's in, where she may or may not spear or die, and like how are they going to address that. But we could talk about that
if and when we get there
in another episode. I do think it's interesting that he kind of looks like he's looking off towards the Blight or more towards maybe the Waste. Not quite sure.
So yes, we'll talk about theories there afterwards, and I have heard some that I want to bring forward.
Maybe we save those for another episode too.
Okay.
We do a whole theories for season 2 episode. I think that'd be good. Then we have Lan show up, comforting Moiraine. Moiraine saying she can't channel.
But, so I want to point out here, did you notice she never says that she's stilled? She never says she's shielded. Yes. She just says, I can't touch the source.
Yes.
So she kind of like kept it vague. She started to say something, stopped herself, and then said something differently. And so I was kind of listening more intently on this watch through, and that really caught my attention because it does lean more towards, how she can't lie still. It's still ingrained in her. She's still bound by the one power. So I'm interested to see where this leads.
Okay. Me too. But now over to Fall Dara, and so we have the scenes in Fall Dara here. I'm gonna go through kind of quickly because the first part, in my opinion, is pretty cut and dry. You get Egwene and Perrin, a nice, cute friend moment, kind of making up and kind of realizing like they're just friends. Saw some fun fan theories where they think that maybe it was Perrin's wife that wanted Egwene.
I saw some saying that they think it's Perrin who wants Rand.
Well, either way, that would be kind of funny or fun. Interesting love interests, I guess. Who knows? Maybe they'll make Faiola.
Yeah, who knows?
Boy, who knows? But honestly, it wouldn't really change my perspective if they did, because that character is whatever. I do think, though, that Perrin in this episode and in the last few episodes this season, like, really out of all the characters,
unfortunately, he's been the weakest.
Yes, and I just think they just really haven't given him much development outside of his trauma at the beginning. Man, kind of. I feel
done
like
my man dirty.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the strengths of the whole series, but as I've said to you on a couple occasions and earlier today too, the casting has just been phenomenal. Though all these actors and actresses have been really great, outside of maybe Lord Algamar, but I think that was more the lines he was given than anything else.
Yeah, I'm not putting that on him. I'm putting that on the writing for the series.
And the first and last episode. You'll have to share that tidbit maybe at the end.
Yes.
All right. So we cut over to Lan and Nynaeve. Cute scene. Lan gives, like, you're a lioness and all this. And it was just very cute. Had a little issue with Nynaeve being like, Moiraine has a tell. And, like, explaining it to Lan.
Yes.
You would think that after Lan being with her for so long.
For 20 plus years.
He would know this too?
He should know this. And it just made me, honestly, I was watching this and it just made me laugh out loud. Because I'm like, how ridiculous is this particular thing? And
yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, and then we kind of, we get Fall Dara again with Nynaeve and Egwene trying to listen to the wind.
Which Nynaeve says she hasn't been able to do since she channeled, which is weird.
Which I think is really interesting because Egwene can still listen to the wind, though.
And she's channeled as well.
I'm not sure why they included that. There may be some reason down the road.
So my thought is that it's part of Nynaeve's block. Because she didn't realize she was using the one power when she was listening to the wind. Or, like, it was similar to the one power enough where she's unable to channel or do things associated with channeling unless she's angry enough.
That's a good point. And then we get Loyal's return as they go down to the bar to see Min.
So before we jump in here, I wanna talk to you about this here. So we see the gang coming in. Min sees them too, and Min is just like, Aggie, you know, like, you might want to move. You might want to get out of here. So as this guy, Aggie, gets up from the bar and starts to leave, he pats Loyal on his chest, right where he gets stabbed later on by Pod and Fane. So there's a whole bunch of theories out there going that, like, some kind of protection was put in that spot, or, like, something was going on there. Like, who is this guy? And, like, how is that, like, is that foreshadowing that something's going to hit there? Or was he just putting it there, or his hand there, just out of normal, like, oh, excuse me, pat, type of situation?
That is interesting. Because I feel like they haven't really done anything without a purpose like that.
Yes. Oh, and I'm sorry. I'm going to go off topic again right here. But going back to Moiraine and Rand, there was a very important thing I wanted to bring up. How she's like, you'll channel when you need to. And he's like, but what if I can't? And she's like, you will. When I was a novice and I was having struggles with learning this, it made me think of Elida. It made me think of Elida.
Definitely call back to her. And so this was really good for me. That was really exciting because it's like, even though you didn't name her, you've described her.
Exactly.
So I do think we're going to see her, hopefully more than just some Aes Sedai back in the day. She's with Morghese, and she's been out of the picture for a long time. And then when Elaine comes to the tower, maybe next season, we'll get Elida. That would be very interesting.
So that's what I'm hoping for as well. So this gave me a lot of hope that Elida will actually still exist.
And that would line up really nicely with what should happen with Liandra next season, too.
Yes, very true. Very true. But let's jump back to Faldara here.
Yep.
So we have
the bar scene. Min sees people burning, which we know is the burnout later from channeling too much and the Trolloc attack from the guys all dying. I don't really have too much else to say on that.
So the one thing that comes up next that I want to talk about is just Amalisa and Agilmar. Mm-hmm. Amalisa basically
60 fades.
Yeah, trying to tell Agilmar, oh, stay back. Like, you're the leader. You're our leader. Don't go out there and risk yourself. And just Agilmar being an arrogant jerk the entire time here. Like, he's been the entire episode before and here. It really makes me disappointed with how they portrayed Agilmar.
Agreed. I did not like how they that portrayal of him. I did not think it did his character justice in the books.
Not at all.
Towards the end, like the last speech he kind of gave, where he was like, "We're doing this to give everyone else a chance."
I like that part.
That's Agilmar right there.
Right.
All the rest of this, ignoring his sister and having her repeat herself like 18 times, the city or the gap will fall, the gap will fall, the gap. I'm just like, why are they having her repeat this line repeatedly?
Yeah.
And you're just ignoring her. It just felt so silly.
It really didn't fit his character from the books, and it just, again, makes me disappointed that we're seeing a character who was fairly likable in the books be wasted this way and be someone that we don't like or have no reason to like.
Or don't care about that he gets killed in this.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's dead? All right, cool. Less complaining, less misogyny. We're good.
We'll say Uno is awesome.
Uno I actually really like. I was like, the flame-kissing goat.
The goat-kissing hides.
Yes,
I was like, yes, Uno, yes.
The flaming goat-kissing hide, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get the actual line there, but I love that. That was classic Uno there. Yeah.
So then we see Agilmar start to, like, round up everybody to go. He's like, oh, we're going to bring the entire Shienaran army with us. Or, I guess, everyone that was there at Faldara. And then Amalisa puts out the call for, like, all women who can even channel a trickle to come to her because she's going to need them. And then puts women guarding the bridges, puts them guarding with bow and arrows on the wall there. And that for everyone who's not from Faldara to get on out of there. And interesting enough, Min is among the little throng that looks like she cut her hair, or maybe she just has her hair down instead of being pulled up like she had at the bar. But she's among the people leaving Faldara while everyone else is, manning the ballistas, gathering bows and arrows, and defending the city. Made me kind of wonder, like, oh, what's going on there? Like, maybe she just...
Well, and Egwene might have said something to... Or not Egwene, sorry. Moiraine may have said something to her as well. We don't know.
True. Yeah.
Like, if anything happens to the city, like, go here.
Right.
Because she is really an important character, and she has some abilities that they would not want to have lost.
Yeah. Maybe... So, there's this whole arc with Min in book 2 and 3, rather, as well, where she goes to the White Tower. And
maybe
so
it's gonna happen.
I'm thinking that she might be heading towards Tar Valon. But going back to Faldara again, they keep talking about how we're Faldara, the city that has never fallen. And I was like, that really should not be your name, because you know exactly what's going to happen here.
Yeah. I like that they lit the torches. No Fade will have a shadow to hide in. I wish they had talked a bit more about the shadow traveling, but it's...
Yeah, I like that detail as well. I thought that was nice.
It was nice. We did skip over that armor scene between the sister and...
Between Amalisa and Agilmar?
Amalisa, yeah. The only thing I have to say on that, it seemed kind of weird that he'd be like, I'm in my own armor, and
yeah,
then
like, I need to wear my own armor.
And then she dons the armor.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, you're going for something here. It didn't quite land with me.
Me either.
It's fine. We continue on Perrin's yelling about how can we do this the way of the leaf? I can't just watch these people die. And I'm just like, wait, so are you actually a tinker now? Are you practicing the way of the leaf? What's going on, Perrin?
Yeah.
I wish they explained that more than just in a line. Like, if he did, that's fine, because we know in the books he battled this idea of violence and being a blacksmith and a helper in a community, and he had to find a balance between it. But I just feel like they're butchering his character to the point where I don't even know what he stands for or what he believes anymore, and I don't think he does either right now. So I guess we're all confused.
So something else I want to point out about that particular scene there is he asks Loial, what do I do? What can I do? I just can't watch my friends die. And Loial literally says, if you don't know what to do, you should ask somebody. Well, Perrin was just asking you, Loial. What should he do? And I'm just like, okay. It's a little...
And then it is a little on the nose. And then you go in, you see them chipping away at... you see Uno and the other gentleman
Lord
chipping away... Lord Dakota. Chipping away at the...
Underneath the seat where Agelmar was sitting, there is a little surprise. So...
Big surprise. We'll cut to that pretty quickly. They set up all the enforcements. We have all the guys, all 19 horsemen, as Dylan counted, going to Tarwin's Gap to help defend. It seemed kind of ridiculous how few.
Yeah, so you can literally pause it when it comes up there and you see the horses riding forward, and you can count every single one. There's 19 horses and some CGI amount of foot soldiers behind them, so you can't really tell, but it looks, like a very small force. And they're supposed to defend against 10,000 to 20,000 Trollocs.
Silly.
And not just that, but when they do get to Tarwin's Gap, they man it using crossbows, which are notoriously slow loading. So I was like, why would you not just use regular bow and arrows and other like siege weapons or weapons of war?
And crossbows don't have nearly as far a range.
No, short range, powerful shots, but short range, long to reload. Maybe they have to use those to take out the Trollocs with one hit, like it seemed like a lot of them were doing. But we see this scene here progress pretty much exactly like everyone knew it was going to, with the Trollocs attacking and just murdering everyone, and Agelmar getting a spear right through the middle of his chest. So I doubt we'll be seeing him again. And bye-bye, one of the great captains.
Yes. Now, I did have to say, bye-bye to one of the great captains. Some of the reasoning they had for killing off some of the characters, Rafi had said they can't carry 45 season regulars. But I have an issue with that, because you don't... Like, after this book, you might see him in season 2, or after this book in the book series, you see him in book 2, but then you don't see Agelmar again...
Until book 7? Or no, later than that.
Really later on.
Yeah.
And it could just be 10. It's just like a quick scene, like, we got word from this, we need to move our forces here,
or name drop him.
Name drop him. Like, you're obviously not going to show everyone, but I mean, that doesn't mean you have to kill everyone too.
And I also want to point out, like, this is the Wheel of Time we're talking about. This is an incredibly large book series with an incredibly large amount of characters. So are you just going to kill everyone that's not convenient to you in the moment?
Correct.
So I just think it's a big mistake.
Very short-sighted.
Yeah.
Very short-sighted. So I'm interested to see what they do with other characters later on. I mean, who else are they going to kill off?
I mean, okay, so let's just not get it twisted either, though. Like, Agelmar is nobody's favorite character. But again, the way that they treated him as, like, a throwaway piece of garbage was not nice. Did not appreciate that.
It wasn't. And I just feel like his death was
wasteful.
Yeah. Just very unavoidable when you have events happen later on, and if you're supposed to build this world, then we need to know, like, you can name drop characters, like, do you know this person in this place? Because I think that was his main importance, is that, like, in book 2, when they're chasing after the Horn of Valier, which we're going to get to here in just a minute, they said, like, we're Lord Agelmar's bannermen and all this, and that helps, but, like, now he's dead, so what are you going to say? Like, we're from Shinar. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So before we get to the Horn of Valier, we have Amalisa and the 2 other Faldaran women that were channelers, or at least had the ability to channel a trickle or more of the one power, standing out there ready to take on all of the Trollocs. And then Nynaeve and Egwene come, and of course Nynaeve has to give a little sass when Amalisa is like, oh, I should have known Moiraine's 2 would show up.
We're no one's.
Yeah, we're no one's but our own. Okay, Nynaeve.
Yeah. I know that people had issue with the power level here, and I get it, because as we see, like, they link up, and then Amalisa uses their power to decimate all the Trollocs.
God mode.
Which, like, I was sitting there, like, why didn't they just do this at the beginning? Like, 5 lives versus all the men of Shinar would have definitely been better. Anyway, and I know people have compared it to the scenes earlier in the series where you had all the sisters together fighting off the Dragonsworn.
Yeah.
And how, you know, if they could do that here, why didn't they do that there? I mean, to be fair,
it's a couple
in
reasons.
This situation,
budget is a reason for the CGI to do the lightning. Also, the power levels of Egwene and Nynaeve are much higher than the other Aes Sedai. They're even being Wilders. Like, they don't have to know how to channel. They just have to be able to be there as a battery.
Yes. And they're not constrained by the oaths either.
Right.
And even if they were with oaths, like, they could literally do whatever to Dragon, or not Dragonsworn, to Shadow Spawn.
Yeah.
They can, because that's within the 3 oaths. Whereas before, they're fighting men, they can only defend themselves or, like, use the power as a weapon if their lives are in danger. So, I mean, or their warders are in danger. So really, they couldn't, like, sit there and just smite all of them. I mean, that's just, I guess, my justification for it. But anyway, we're just going to stick here with them. You get the 2 Faldaran women who burn out almost very quickly because they don't have that much. Then you get Egwene and Nynaeve starting to burn out even after they've killed everyone. Like, it looks like Amalisa is just, like, going...
She's drunk on the
mad.
power.
Yeah, just like, oh my gosh, I could do anything.
She's like, oh, I hear every rock, I feel every whisper, and like just talking about like how she has so much of the one power in her. She can see, feel, and experience life.
And then you get basically Nynaeve and Egwene are starting to burn up too because she's drawing on them so much. Then it looks like Nynaeve kind of takes Egwene's link.
I kind of read it as like Nynaeve pushed Egwene almost out of the circle. Okay. And basically got in front of her so that instead of going through Egwene and then through Nynaeve and then back to Amalisa, it went from Amalisa through Nynaeve back to Amalisa.
Okay. I guess that can make sense. It's fine. Then it looks like Amalisa burns out, and then it looks like Nynaeve's dead. But apparently she's not dead because then Egwene heals her, and
then they hug, and all is well with the world. Yeah. Kumbaya.
Whatever. I mean, you gave them purpose. You gave them their scene of glory here. As I said, it didn't link up with what happened in the Blight, and I did not like that. I understand that they want this story to be split between all these characters, and I get that, and that's fine. That being said, I wish they had made them feel more interconnected and not just like this whole huge power thing where these women just took out everything after all the men died.
So I just want to come out and I want to say this as well. Like, I feel like, we have the Dragon Reborn, who is supposed to be this big deal. And what has the Dragon Reborn actually done so far?
Nothing that you can see except nothing. Break a disc.
Yeah.
Which doesn't have any significance to you.
And so, like, this whole scene is supposed to be Rand's scene, where he comes down and uses the one power to decimate the Trolloc armies, saving Agomar, saving the Shienaran army there, saving the Faldaran city. And so, taking this from being something where it's the Dragon Reborn showing you why he's such a big deal, to being more of this like split between the Dragon Reborn shining a flashlight and killing a Forsaken or banishing a Forsaken, and these Wilders and a Tower Castoff wielding the one power to decimate a 10,000 Trolloc army. It's just ridiculous. It honestly shows that they have no purpose for the Dragon Reborn if they could just do this with Nynaeve and Egwene. And just also the way that they've been portraying men in this series has just been lacking. Like, I really love this series, and part of what I love about this series is just how powerful and awesome so many of these women characters are. But the way they've been treating the men is that they're either all arrogant, they're either all weak, or they just are all pointless. And they have no moments to show you that, yes, we can do good things too. We're not just a waste of space. And I don't know, just it doesn't sit well with me.
I agree, Dylan. I think they need to find a better balance. We have these really awesome female characters, and they should be awesome. Let's try to give some of our male characters time to shine as well, and not just make them be evil like Matt, or arrogant like Louis Theron, or Lord Algamar. Like,
give them substance.
Yes, give them substance, and don't just make them like this nameless hero either, and like make them a trope, but give them feel like. I think they've done a really nice job of giving our male characters these emotions and stuff, and having to deal with that, and I think that's really important. But also, have this interconnected need between these characters, like I need you, and like stepping up and helping each other and making these struggles just connect everything.
That's what the Wheel of Time is all about. The entire series, one of the biggest themes of the entire series is balance. It's all about balance, and we see that with the symbol of Aes Sedai being half of the female source and half of the male source there, and they work together to have absolute power and unity, because without that they could not defeat the Dark One at the end of the series. They could not do as much as they could do individually as they could do together. Like they said, the best works throughout the entire Age of Legends weren't just done by men, weren't just done by women. They were done when they worked together. And so that balance is something that's sorely lacking so far. And also, who's sorely lacking is Lan, one of our best fighters, and probably the guy that's had the most screen time so far, has been utterly useless in this episode. He doesn't fight a single Trolloc, and just
or anything
tiptoeing through the Blight.
But anyway, we're going back to Faldara here. We have 2 female guards, it looks like, and they're like, "Who's there?" And Padan Fain walks up, and oh, hello, and then all of a sudden 2 Murdral just stat, they're dead.
Yeah,
I thought that was neat. It was kind of weird, like, because Perrin's helping dig out the Horn of Valir, which they explain as being this horn that you sound to summon all these heroes from the Age of Legends to help you fight, or not the Age of Legends, but throughout the ages to help you fight the last battle.
But it's for the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah,
so they're not going to blow it now. They're going to wait until the Dragon Reborn can get it and then blow it for the last battle.
Which is fine. I didn't mind that they moved it here instead of having it at the Eye of the World. They just sped things up because it's set up for Season 2 with Padan Fain getting it. Do have an issue here, though. Perrin leaves the room because he thought he saw Padan Fain.
And so he chases after him.
I feel like they just did this to save on budget of having a fight scene. I don't know.
That's exactly what it was. Exactly what it was.
It just seemed weird. They should have had the fight scene. Like, that would have been cool. And them just leaving Perrin, that was really weird as well. Like, Perrin walks back in. Loyal's getting stabbed from the ruby hilted dagger, which means he should be instantly dead, by the way.
There's no recovering from that.
Yeah. And apparently, I'm siding off the fight here, but the ruby hilted dagger, like, we saw Fain be in the location that the dagger was. So it's not too far off that he could have gotten it. And I guess Rafi had said, like, apparently if you follow him closely, there's clues there.
Well, I don't know, because, like, we've been watching fairly closely, and we saw Padan Fain in Tar Valon. So, okay, he's in the same city as the ruby hilted dagger. However, like, did Moraine and Lan just leave it laying on the floor in the inn there? Like, what gives there?
Not sure there with that, but it's interesting. I'm hopeful that someone maybe found out. I don't know. But anyway, he has it. That's fine. I think that's fine. Again, you're merging the two things very quickly. But both Uno and Lord Dakota getting stabbed by the Murdrawl, one, should also mean instant death because
Right.
those blades
Poisoned blades.
instantly kill. Unless all of a sudden when we start season 2, it's like Nynaeve and Egwene show up and then heal them all. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but
I don't
otherwise
know.
they should all be dead.
Yeah. Because, like, if they
So-
stick true, again, that's the key right there, is if they stick true to what we know, then they all should be dead. I think they will kill Lord Dakota, because what I
Yeah.
heard is he's supposed to have been Inktar, but there was a conflict with that actor and being able to be available for additional shooting for farther on seasons, so they changed his name in season 1 here, and then killed him off,
Oh, it's a
basically.
shame. I thought he was fine.
Yeah, it was
so
fine.
that would have been cool to have him, but he'll be missed. Anywho, yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, like Mike just said, I thought it was really strange how Pot and Fane and the Murdrawl, who went through all the trouble of sending the Trollocs to the Two Rivers to get the Emmonsfield 5, don't even worry about leaving Perrin there and just like, oh, we'll have a conversation with you and then leave you there. I thought that was a little weak. We do see Matt again with the little flash, like I had
So
mentioned.
strange.
It's like some
Why
of
he
you will
would-
turn to the shadow, and then it shows Matt
And
walking
shows
into
Matt.
Tarvalin.
Yeah, and that doesn't make sense. I hope they really don't try to make his character evil in this
really-
in the show. Like, it doesn't make sense to me if they did that. And why is he back in Tarvalin if he's trying to track the dagger? That wouldn't make much sense because the dagger's no longer there.
And Matt
he would sense that.
Yeah, he would sense it exactly. And so I really didn't like that part at all. One thing that I did like is I do like the actor for Pot and Fane. I think that he is decent.
Oh, he's
I like
fabulous.
him. I really
Done an
liked
amazing
how
job.
he explained it, where he's like, Rand might be the Dragon Reborn, but all 5 of you are important to the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so that goes back to what was talked about in the books, where
Ta'Veren.
Matt and Perrin are Ta'Veren as well, and apparently it's all 5 of them are Ta'Veren, Nynaeve included too now. But Matt and Perrin being Ta'Veren in the books, they were part of like this tripod with Rand, where all of 3 of them were needed for the last battle for the light to have any chance of success. Whereas here, it's all 5 of them now are going to be needed for the last battle to be a success as
Which
well.
is
So
fine.
that's fine with me. I thought it was a cool way to say, like, even though Rand's the Dragon Reborn, all of you matter, all of you are important.
Yeah. So overall, had some issues with the episode with how some of that was portrayed. We have one last final scene to get to. We will talk about theories in another episode here and do our ratings on the episodes. But our last scene we get, which Dylan mentioned in the instant reaction, we've been calling the Seanchan. Not quite exactly how I pictured it, but that's okay. You get them on the boat. Dylan apparently, we didn't see the Idom, the collar with the chain. Apparently there is on their wrist, though, you were saying a gold.
Yeah, there's like a gold little like wrist guard, and then there's a gold basically chest piece that the Damani were wearing. And so I'm kind of thinking how in the books, Elaine discovers you don't need the leash between the 2 pieces there. And so maybe the Sualdam were just wearing it like Elaine discovers later on.
And the mouth guard.
And the mouth guard,
And the
ball
binky.
gag, whatever you want to call it, the binky, that's still just weird. I don't know what that's
is.
needed for.
Definitely cool ships, though. I loved the rib sails. Loved the appearance of, kind of them and their, like, the paint and stuff on them.
Very striking.
Yeah. We've talked about, very odd that they would summon this giant wave to hit the beach where one girl is. Seemed like a waste. Should have really been focused on, like, a town or something else. I know, they don't want to drown Falma, but why do all this when... To do what? It just made no sense. It just seemed like you were really just doing that to show the audiences their power, which is fine. But make it make sense.
Right, because in the books, what happens is the Seanchan will come, and, like, they don't want to kill people. They see themselves as being the rightful rulers of this land here. So what they'll do is, if you swear oaths of fealty to them, they let you go. Like, they have no problem doing that. So for them
And
to
they're not
summon a
gonna
giant
waste
tidal
women.
wave... Yeah, they're not going to do that to a girl. Like, what if she could channel? She'd be way more valuable to them. Mm-hmm. And so, like, they're not going to just summon a tidal wave to kill or drown a single little girl like that. It's just overkill. And I think it was done for the shock and awe of it all, and just for us as the viewers to be like, oh, damn, who are these people?
Yeah. Again, could have done that better. Like, make it a beach full of people. Just do something to make it seem more important than one little girl digging up clams. But that was the end of the final episode of The Eye of the World, the final episode in season 1. Overall, the season had its ups and downs. I'm excited to talk with Dylan a bit more here about the whole season, theories for season 2, and as we move forward. We'll definitely do a ratings episode as well, where we rate the episodes. And so if you have any thoughts, opinions, or anything else you'd like to share with us, just hit us up on our socials, Twitter, or on Instagram at WOT Rewind. And then email Wheel of Time Rewind at gmail.com. Thank you.
So also, before we get out of here, I just wanted to give the payoff for what you alluded to earlier. So we were talking about how this episode is probably arguably our least favorite of the entire season so far. Or not so far. It is our least favorite of the entire season. And one of the other episodes that Mike really didn't like that much was episode 1. So a little interesting tidbit that connects them both is that they were both written by Rafi Judkins, the showrunner for the Wheel of Time series here. Which, it's a little groan-inducing if those are what he's got for us. But
it's going to be interesting to, like, when we rate and talk about the episodes, we should look at who directed, who wrote, and
we really should
see if there's a pattern with that. So,
but I just want to end this episode by saying that all in all, as a total series so far, I still want to watch. I am unhappy with some of the changes that were made, especially in this last one here.
Still excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm still excited to see a representation of a version of Wheel of Time on the screen here. And I just keep crossing my fingers and hoping that it keeps getting better and better, because I felt like the show really reached a point where it was building up and getting better. And episode 7 in particular. But we'll see what happens.
Hopefully more episodes next season too.
Yeah, I'm hoping, because they already, I think, completed or are in the middle of filming season 2. So I did hear there's going to be a larger budget for season 2 than there was for season 1, which, I mean, given the success of the show, given it's the #1 streaming show in the world, why wouldn't there be? So
exactly.
I'm really excited for season 2 to get here. And of course, we'll keep the great Wheel of Time content coming your guys' way, and just have lots to talk about. Our episodes after this probably won't be as long, which will probably be a benefit to everybody. But we got lots of cool stuff planned, including, like Mike said, our next episode is going to be kind of ranking all of the episodes and just kind of going through it as like a whole piece to see what we thought of the series as a whole. But until next time, we'll see you at the next turning of the wheel. Goodbye.
See you, goat kissers.